All right, this is Matt Morozic, and this will be a work in progress. I think this is number 7 on Alpha3 Batman with Mark DeMello. So I didn't do a video last night. It was more painting blue and stuff, but I can show you that what I did last night is I masked off the pants, got those sprayed blue. I hand painted the bat symbol. What else did I do? Oh, I just took a few photos for Mark. Oh, I also painted the soles of the boot black. This will all get a little bit of weathering and stuff, so it's a little flat right now. I also masked off the grappling gun last night and sprayed the first color. And I just went in and I did some hand painting with some acrylics, and that's looking really good. I also painted the fins for all the hands, and that's just metallic black. And I got these glued in on that hand. I got these glued in on this hand. And I only have 2 in this hand because when I went to go put the first one in, I broke it. So I'm having to repair that, unfortunately. 1 second. But yeah, so I got the grappling gun painted. I got all the fins painted. I got all the fins in except for the one. Those will get all top coated again. I got the grappling hook painted, and it's a very subtle two-tone. It's metallic black with some Vallejo metal color exhaust manifold hand painted, but the main color is Mr. Color metallic black. I also painted the batarangs right here. And you notice there's a little bit bare spot, and that's just from where my clip was, and I'm not going to worry about that because that's where it actually fits into the hand. So like you have the batarang hand right here. Second. And you got the way they fit in here is this one goes in here like this, and I'm not going to glue these in. I'm going to leave them separate because I don't think they ship very good loose. And then this one comes in here like that. So yeah, hopefully you can see that. Get some light on it. There we go. Yeah, so we got the 2 batarangs, and like I said, I'm just gonna leave those loose. So those are looking good. Right now I'm working on the face. I went ahead and got the eyes painted white. You can see there. I'm going to do a small line of black around them just to kind of give them some more definition. What I'm doing right now, and I probably should record this, is I'm touching up the masking around my mask on the face. What I've done is I've got some watercolors here, and I love gouache watercolors. The brand I use, and I don't think the brand really matters. Like I bought some of these. These are called Fine Touch at Hobby Town. I think this set was like $10. I got this set of gouache watercolors. These are called Royal Lagnical Essentials, and I got a set of like 30 of these for like $30 off of Amazon. They're awesome. So what I did is I took black gouache and some cobalt blue, and I just basically mixed up a dark blue right here, and I just kind of mixed it till I got a tone similar to the mask. And actually my color matching is just about freaking perfect, because even when I mask around a face, a lot of times I don't get it perfect. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just going in and I'm touching up the line, the masking around the edge of the face with this. So basically I'm going in here with this. When I hand paint, I use lining brushes a lot. They're a lot more forgiving when you're hand painting. You can, and the reason they're more forgiving is because if you use a really short brush and you're kind of shaky, well, those bristles are going to shake at that same amount. The longer your bristles are, it kind of absorbs any shakiness in your hand. So lining brushes are super, super forgiving for that, and I do the eyes with that and everything. So basically I just got a little bit of watercolor on the tip of my brush here, and I'm just taking a little bit, and I'm just outlining the face right here around the mask. There's a real thin line of this, and the parts I've done have already dried, and the color is like matched perfectly. So just see, it looks real easy hand paint, and I'm actually moving the face, not my brush, and this perfectly cleans up that edge around the face, around the cowl. Just like this. And if I screwed this up, I can just take some water with a Q-tip and wipe it right off. This has all been sealed really well. And I'm even actually going just ever so slightly onto the skin. It's minute. You can barely tell, but what it does is it gives me a super clean line between the face and the cowl. So again, I'm just doing real gently. I don't mind if I get some of this paint on the cowl, I can wipe it off. But again, And the trick is getting your watercolors the right consistency. So I have a little kind of bluish water over here, and I got my paints over here. I mixed this color at first, and it was too dark, so then I want to add some more blue. And so what I'm doing is I'm just basically taking water as I need it, because they dry out pretty quick in your palette, as I need it to get the consistency I want. And this is probably the consistency of, gee, I don't know, would be a good analogy to tell you what the consistency of the paint is. Basically, so it's thick enough to cover real nicely, but it flows off the brush. So if you see that, how I'm using the lining brush, even though my hand's a little shaky, the bristles aren't shaking, because I got that long, those long bristles kind of absorb all that. So if you've had a bunch of coffee or something, you start painting, these are your friends. And I knew I was going to have a little cleanup around the nose on the bottom here. You can see here my edge isn't actually super clean right here, so that's where this comes in. So I'm just going to go in there and I'm just real gently, and it takes care of it just like that. Same thing here. Just like that. And now that edge is super clean. Same thing under here, the nose. I know it's going to have to touch that up a little bit, no biggie. And once it's dry, I'll seal it with some dull coat, and then that'll seal the watercolors. You can see I'm actually getting this color right onto the cowl underneath the nose. It's no big deal, you're not going to see that, but the color is just about perfectly matched, so it's okay. It looks a little bright right now, but once it dries, it blends in perfectly. All right. Yeah, lining brushes, I love using these for hand painting. I would say a year ago my hand painting was terrible at best. It has gotten a lot better the more I do figures, because I'm having to do a lot more hand painting, especially eyes and stuff. So like anything else, the more you do it, the better you get, and you learn, you learn the techniques. And figures have definitely made me a better hand painter. I'm nowhere near as good as I need to be, but I'm getting there. All right, so now his cowl looks like I didn't mess up on the masking at all. It's perfect. Okay, so there's that step. So I got the eyes base coated in white. I have a little bottle here full of water, just clean water. I use watercolors a lot. They're like actually one of my favorite things to use on figures. They're very forgiving. You can, if you mess up, if your piece is sealed really good, you can actually, I could like put watercolor over this. I could go take it in the sink and rinse it off, and it wouldn't be hurt. So now in the camera, my skin tones are looking pretty sad. In person, they look very realistic. They're on a little bit on the pale side. So I am going to darken them up a little bit with just a little pastels, very slightly. I don't want it like I talked to Mark about doing like maybe a 5 o'clock shadow or a little stubble, and we decided not to do that. But right now he's not looking very manly. He's looking a little I don't know, just looking a little, just a tad pale. It's not bad, but I can rectify that pretty easily with some pastels. So I'm going to do now, I got a Q-tip here. This is actually really handy because these eyes are really deep set, and it's actually pretty impressive that they were able to cast these this way and get a really clean casting. But basically I'm going here, I'm just cleaning up the bottom edge of this eye a little bit. I got a little paint where I don't want it, and the Q-tip, if you wet it, you don't want to do it bare because it's a pretty hard tip. You might scratch your paint. But if you wet it, it kind of gets soft. And you have like this little teeny tiny wooden brush / scraper, and it's perfect for going in here and kind of getting paint up. And I can actually go in here and just, if I wanted to, I could just kind of go in here really lightly without any water, scrape off anything that I got that I don't want to. But the only thing I'm going to do left on the eyes is I'm going to seal this here in a second with dull coat. And I'm just going to put a real fine line of black underneath the eye, and that'll just help give it some separation between the cowl and the eyeball. And then after I do that, just all I have to do is really do some pastels in the lips. Actually, the lips look pretty good on him. I'll do some pastels on the other areas of him, and I think he'll be done. But in camera, he looks really pasty white right now, but in person, he looks really good. So that's it for now. I'm going to pause, and I'll come back after I seal him with dull coat. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention is have a hand dryer handy close by. It's great for when you're using acrylics or the watercolors. You get the way you like. Hit it real lightly with the hair dryer. It sets the paint, and you can continue working pretty easily without having to slow down too much. So I'm learning these little tricks also, like how to still do a good job, but a little more effectively and a little more speedily, I guess is a good term. That little line here is not quite as clean as I would like it. So even after I do this, I go back and I see little areas where I think, it's not quite perfect. The trick with doing something like this is you try to do the one long stroke if possible. You can do it in one long stroke, you have less chance of your line looking broken up. It just looks cleaner if you can manage that. But that looks pretty good there. So I'll be back after I seal this. Okay, so I just put some dull coat on this so you can see it's a little shiny. This is where your hair dryer comes in handy again. Just put it on low heat or low blower, and I'm off camera, and just hit it, and it'll help dry it down. Don't do it too fast, and this will allow you to kind of move on to the next step. So now that it's kind of set, I'm going to go ahead and put the high heat on. And he's pretty much ready for the next step. So I'm going to set him aside here for a second. And actually, instead of doing straight black, what I'm going to do for under the eyes, I'm actually use this really dark blue that I mixed up here. It'll be a nice little line under the eye. And I'm going to see if I have a thinner lining brush or a longer lining brush. I do. Yeah. Ooh. I just hit the table, which was not a good idea. Alright, so I'm going to get a little bit of clean water here and clean my brush. Nice thing about the watercolors too is if you forget to clean your brushes, it's not like an enamel or acrylic. It's really easy to reactivate that paint and clean your brush. You're not going to kill it. I've thrown away whole sets of brushes before because I'm too lazy to clean them, and I've had enamels or whatever stuck on them. But I buy cheap brushes. I made the mistake of buying a nice set of Winsor Newton Series 7s, and I destroyed those. So yeah, it's like $100 wasted. So basically I got my palette over here. Again, with my blues, different shades of blue. I'm going to use this really dark blue right here. And I'm going to get it, again, kind of the consistency I want. Basically, I want to try to draw a line with this right underneath the eyeball. Alright, let's see if we can do this on camera. Problem is I have to get at a really specific angle to see what I'm doing. If I take off the clip. So I sealed this like literally like less than 2 minutes ago. I should be okay. Since I'm using watercolors on top of a lacquer. Maybe a little thick. So just keep getting some water over here until I kind of get the consistency I want. There we go. I think maybe a good analogy of consistency would be like maple syrup. You know, you have like your cheap syrup, which is kind of thick, but maple syrup tends to be kind of a runnier type of syrup. That's kind of like the consistency I have going on here. It's kind of like a maple syrup consistency. I actually want that darker. I got a little black right here, so I'm going to mix a little more black in there. I want it almost black, but not quite. Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, I'm going to take most of the paint off. I just need a little bit. And I'm going to go under here. So I'm going to do this on the camera. It's right under the eyeball. Oops. Another good thing to have are the hobby Q-tips that are pointy. I'm out of those right now, unfortunately, but those are really good. They're really tiny ones because they don't shed, and you can get that tip wet and really be precise about cleaning up. So like right now, I'm not worried about if I get paint on the outside of the cowl. I can wipe it off. I just want to get it right underneath that eyeball. What's tricky is that they did such a good job at casting this is that the eye is really set back in there. Way back in there. It's hard to get to. It's not quite super neat, but I can go touch it up here in a second. I think we're going to do it on the top side too. You'll just give some nice definition between the eyeball and the cowl. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, this brush is too thick. I need a really thin brush. Let's see, I wish I had a lining brush that was even thinner. Let's see what else I got over here. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to try one of these, a little shorter brush. Let's see if this kind of does what I want it to do. That actually did it perfectly right there. Hard to get paint down there in the way down in the recess. There we go. I'll have to clean up the cowl a little bit. That's no big deal. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you can tell the difference there. So my left, his right eye's got that black line around it. I need to clean up, and the other side doesn't. So it gives it a nice definition, makes him look a little more menacing. And I'll have to clean up a little bit, but that's no big deal. A lot of people say you can do the same thing with acrylics, man. I have screwed up faces before, like, oh yeah, I can use acrylics to wipe right off, and then they don't wipe right off, and I have to repaint the whole freaking face. So here I'm just using a Q-tip with some water on it, and I'm cleaning off the excess watercolor. and then this will get sealed once I'm happy with it. Seal each step as you go. So that I got one little spot I'm going to touch up with some paint, white paint, and then I think it's good. Let's try the other side. So today is Friday, December the 8th. I started on this last week. I don't remember the date I started. I have to go back and look at my work in progress video dates, but my goal, we'll see if I can do it, is to get this done by this coming Monday. Which would be, let's see, today's the 8th, 9th, 10th, the 11th. By the 11th, we'll see. Depends on what I have going on this weekend. Spot I gotta clean up a little bit in there, but that's pretty good. Again, I'm just gonna use this Q-tip. Gotta clean up my paint under here. Now he's looking like Batman. Now he's getting there. Okay. So I've got two little spots that can use some more, and I've got my titanium white still over up here. This is titanium white. Unless you just want to spend a crap load of money, don't go buy Winsor & Newton gouache watercolors. Like a tube of titanium white for Winsor & Newton is like $30 or $40 just for the white. If you get titanium white, it's got more pigment in it, so they charge you a crap load. I'm not sure what I'm sure there'll be. If you're a watercolor artist and that's what you do, I can get it. But stuff like this, I don't think it's necessary to spend that kind of money on these watercolors. Okay, so now I'm going to go in here and try to touch up this white just a hair. That. Like that. Okay. Yeah, see, now I got some on the black. No big deal. Okay, there we go. I'm not quite there. I'm not quite happy with it yet. Eisen's can take me a long time because I'm still learning, and there's a lot of back and forth when I'm doing these things. that's pretty good. Should probably seal this here. Make sure I get all my cleanup that I need, because once I seal it, I can't go back and clean it up. And I actually got some of the black watercolor in the count. I'm just going to leave it there. It gives a nice kind of shadow underneath there. I'm just going to try to get it off, but it actually helps a little bit with giving him this kind of menacing look. There we go. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. There's one little spot here that's bugging me. It's right here in the corner of this eye. There we go. That was it. It didn't quite come to a point in the corner of the eye there. Okay, I think I'm done with those. I'm going to seal that. And then we'll move on to the pastels for the skin. Okay, now we're going to do some pastel work on the face. The brand that I bought, again, these are just Hobby Lobby Master Touch. Don't think the brand really matters. So I'm going to put those out here on my workbench. My friend brought me his old Jetfire from when he was a kid. So it's over here on my thing. It's a really cool gift. And then I get some sandpaper. I typically use like 800 grit sandpaper, sometimes 1,000. Let's see what I got. Yeah, just use some 800. Alright, so some 800 sandpaper here. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get out some flesh tones. I'm going to make some flesh tones. So I'm going to get like a pink. I'm going to get this kind of color here. I'm going to get some brown. Not that orange. I don't want to go orange. And this color. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up a little palette of flesh tones and see what we do. So here's some of that pink. You don't even see my phone recording me. Here's some of this kind of light peachy pink. Here's some of this. That's like a creamsicle color, and then it's brown. And I'm gonna get myself a nice little soft, nice little stiff kind of brush. I use a short flat brush. Some guys have like pastel only brushes. I use my brushes for everything. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my skin tones here, because I really do like what I have here. I just kind of need to accentuate a little bit. So I'm going to take some of this brown, some of this like kind of light peachy color, and some of this brown. I'm going to mix them up like right over here for a shadow color. It doesn't take a lot. Basically, it's like a medium African, light African American skin tone, and that usually makes a really good shadow tone for Caucasian. Okay, so here's this one. So I'm using this color right here. You can see that. Bring it a little closer. So I mixed up the brown and this light peach, and this is kind of the tone I've got going on right now. I'm just going to take that, and I'm just going to put that in the kind of the shadow areas. When you're working with pastels, don't wipe them off and blow them off, because if you wipe them, you're going to smear them everywhere. So I do a lot of pastel work when I'm doing skin. I find I can get pretty close with paint, but then I can really kind of get it where I really want with the pastels. That's kind of how I've been doing all my skin tones, and I'm getting better at it. Again, just going into the crevices and the shadow areas right now. Anywhere I want to, get some definition. And I may mix some gray in here, a very, very light gray, to kind of get some of the peachiness out of his skin. We don't want him to look like, like he just had a facial. Again, I'm not sure if this is getting blown out on the camera or not. From my view, it looks like it's getting kind of blown out. Right here in the... And I'm going to take some of this even darker brown and kind of go just the brown just underneath the chin. I can feather it up. That's going to help warm up the skin a little bit. Add a little shading right around the cowl. I remember telling you not to wipe it off, and I'm wiping it. I got a little too much on the blue. We'll see. I may have to touch up the blue again when I'm done, but that's okay. I still have that color mixed up over here. I just want to darken up underneath the chin a little bit. It's a little bright. There we go. That did it right there. So far, I mean, just a little bit I've done so far has made a pretty good difference. Now I'm going to take some of this lighter pink here, and I'm going to mix it again with this kind of creamsicle color as a highlight. And I still have a little bit of brown on my brush, which is okay. So we're going to go in here. We're just going to kind of touch the high points, like right here. Pretty big difference right there. People have asked me to do a skin tone tutorial. I was like, I don't know if I should do a skin tone tutorial because I don't know what I'm doing. I just mess around until I get what I want. So here you go. This is me messing around until I get what I want. Pastels are great. They're kind of like a translucent paint. You can put them on real light, and you can shift the color pretty easily of anything you're doing. So I've just done a little bit right here and right here, and this has already made a pretty big difference on the face as far as giving it some more contrast, more definition. Top of the lip here, kind of like do a little dry brush technique. Just going to kind of drag it across the top. Not quite bright enough for me. There we go. And we're going to hit the top of the chin here. Okay. So far this is This is tying it together pretty nicely from the initial paint that I put down. Now it's looking more cohesive. Let's get some nice contrast in the skin. Looking pretty natural, actually. A lot of guys do super high contrast on these guys, and I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a little bit of, I'm actually going to use black. And I normally would say don't use black, but in pastels, it kind of looks gray when you put it on. And just the teeniest tiny amount. I want to get this first color over here that I made with the brown and this kind of creamsicle color. I'm going to add a little bit of gray to it. Just like that. And this I'm going to put like right here in the cleft of the chip and the chin. Actually, the black and that brown makes a good shadow color, it looks like. Maybe that. So I dab it on and blow the rest off, just like that. You kind of want a stiff brush, especially if you're doing this, because you push, when you kind of put it on there, it'll kind of set it. I'm going to get a dry Q-tip here, and I got a little excess on there. I'm just going to do this. So I was able to wipe off the excess on the top of that little indentation without taking it off where I didn't want to take it off. Again, we'll hit some of these shadow areas a little bit. We don't want a 5 o'clock shadow. We talked about it and decided that probably wouldn't look very good on this subject, so we're not doing that. So I don't tone, really any type of gray tone on his face. I was going to do a 5 o'clock shadow. I just go in right with that, straight in with that black and put a real kind of light coat around, the beard area and stuff. So look at this. After I seal it, I'll probably have to go back and touch up my blue. This is actually looking pretty good. I don't know if I want to do much more to this. I'm not sure what it looks like on camera, but he's looking really good right now. I'm really kind of digging what I have going on. Bring up these highlights a little bit more. So when I do skin tones, they're pretty subtle. A lot of times I take photos, and I work as a professional photographer. A lot of times, some of the work I've done doesn't even show up in the pictures because it's pretty subtle. But once you see it in person, you can see all those different layers and shading that I've done. Relatively easy. Let me take some more of this pink and this, and I'm going to add just that tiny bit of white. So I like the tone I have going on for my highlight. I'd like to bring it up just a little bit more. And sometimes you'll be doing this, and then it'll seem like your subject won't take pastels anymore. You probably saturated the surface with them, so you might have to take a break, seal it, and continue. So I'm just going in with this tone that has got just a teeny tiny bit of white. Just kind of adding one more little highlight. take some of it off. I can blend it in a little bit. It's a little harsh. So right now what I'm doing is I'm seeing some areas where you can kind of see where I added it, and just extremely lightly touching on my brush to kind of blend it in a little bit. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Back in here and add some more shadow to the bottom side. So what we'll have to do before I seal this again is go around and kind of wipe off the blue because it's got some pastels on it, and if I seal it, then I'm SOL. Like on the shoulders, you can see all this pastels I got in here. I'll make sure to get all that off before I seal this. Don't worry about on the edge. I can go back and hit that with that watercolor again, but everywhere else. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. In person, he looks really, really good. I warmed up the skin a little bit. He's not so peachy now. Add some shadows under the chin. Brought up the highlights a little bit. Now he's got a little more definition. And make sure when you are blowing them that your lips are not wet. You'll spit all over them, and then you'll have to start over. I've done that before. Okay, now I'm just going in and kind of blending these in a little bit where I see, anywhere I see like a really hard transition between the tones, I'm just kind of want to feather it in a little bit. Okay, that's looking pretty good. The only thing I got to do back now is really kind of do the lips. I could probably do that with a little bit of this pink, because it's not going to look pink. Batman doesn't have lipstick. This pink. It does help give him some tonality difference between the rest of the face. Taking some of this kind of darker pink and this, I did some of the lighter pink and it's looking a little girlier. So now I'm taking some of this darker pink with this, call it a creamsicle color. Sorry about that, my battery died, so I just switched those out real quick. Okay, so it's taking some of this kind of this creamsicle color with this pink, and gonna put that on top of that kind of that bright pink I just did. So now his lips just have a little tonality difference between the rest. Some areas where I can get a little more definition. wasn't in frame. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I think he looks good. Let's see if I see any errors or I see any abrupt tonality changes. Probably get a little more definition right here. Oops, sorry. Just go in there and kind of soften it up a little bit. Okay, I think that's pretty good. It's actually come a long way from where he was. Keep seeing little areas where I can get a little more pop to it. Alright. I'm going to leave it alone before I screw it up, because I'm liking this. So now I'm just going to make sure that I get all these pastels off the blue, because I do not want to seal them on top of the blue paint. I'm actually going to get a little bit of water. And just kind of clean it around. Got to be careful I don't touch the skin. I probably should have done the pastels before I went in and touched up that border line, but that's okay. I can do it again. I still have the color mixed up. So just a little bit of water on my Q-tip here. And what you don't want to do is go hitting this with a hairdryer and you blow all your pastel work off, and then when you seal it, when you go to seal it, do it real, do a real super light kind of coat first, and let that dry. Don't go in there and try to put it on too wet or anything, because you'll disturb the pastels. But yeah, he's looking good now. I'm digging it. So once I get him sealed again, I'm going to do that line around the face one more time on the cowl, and then one more time sealing it, and he should be good. I'm going to consider the face done. So I'll come back after I seal him. Alright, so I sealed him one more last time, and I feel like he's done. He looks good. Said mark a couple photos. Unfortunately, in the photos, the skin looks really, really warm, but I'm actually looking at his skin next to my arm, and it's pretty damn close. Kind of use my skin as a judgment as far as like naturalness looking, but I'm really happy with him. Before he was a little soft looking. I pumped up the details a little more, added more contrast, and warmed up the skin a little bit. He was a little pale looking earlier, but yeah. So the face is done, eyes are painted. This is all done. I'm gonna put this aside and move on to the next thing, which is going to be masking off the belt, which will take a while. So I'll film some of that, not all of it. So I anticipate it taking me about 2 hours to mask the entire belt and get the yellow sprayed on that. So I'll be back for that in a second. Okay, so the last masking that is left on this kit, because there's no masking on the base, that's all going to get hand painted, or it's going to be airbrushed and do washes and dry brushing and stuff, is the belt. And save that for last, simply because, as I mentioned before, when you're doing masking, it's always easiest to work from your lowest spot first and work your way up. So that's why I masked off. I did the gray first, and then I masked off the boots, sprayed those, masked off the crotch area and sprayed that, because it's much easier to get a tape. It's much easier to butt tape up against an edge than it is to wrap it around an edge. So the last thing to do is the belt. Now, This is going to take me a while because simply I have to get around each of these pouches. They all have a slight indentation to show their separation. So this is going to take me probably a couple hours to mask. I'm not going to use silly putty because these are all hard edges, and I need to turn this towel over because it's full of pastels, and I don't want pastels all over the body. So let's do that. Okay. Since these are all kind of, hard edges and stuff, masking for me is just easier. So I'll show a little bit of that, and I'm not going to bore you to death with like 2 hours of masking because it's pretty boring. But some people like to watch it because they're they're intimidated by it. Again, I say this all the time. I'm going to say it again. Not particularly hard. It's just time consuming. I feel like I'm going to make myself a t-shirt. It's not that hard. It's just time consuming. So, and I say that not to make it look like what I'm doing is easy. I say that because I want to encourage other guys and other builders to, and this is more towards the Gundam community because, it's kind of where I've been in the past 8 or 9 years. I want you to kind of, instead of just sitting there snapping 500 kits, try painting one. And so hopefully my videos can show you that again. If you're willing to put the time into it, you can get some really, really cool results. So, alright, so again, I got a nice clean blade. I said it last time, but this blade is nice and new. I've got several different sizes of tape here. I've got my whole tape bin here on my Tamiya tape. I used to use blue painter's tape. I find that was just harder to work with. The Tamiya tape, it's not cheap, but it's not expensive. I stock up every year when I go to Squadron Eagle Quest here in Dallas. If you know Squadron, they're a modeling supply company and they sell online, but I can go there during Eagle Quest and get a really good deal. So I usually buy them out of Tamiya tape. That's like the one thing I buy every year. So again, I'm off camera here, just right here in front of me. You might be able to see it a little bit. I typically will do this. I'll put out a string of tape like this, and I'll just start cutting little pieces. Not any particular size. I don't have a cutting board on this table. This is like my secondary workstation because I got so much going on. I just put it on the tip of my blade, and it does help if you have your little skewer tool, which I had somewhere over here earlier, and I always misplace it. So I'll just use a toothpick for now. And so I'm just going to butt it up. I'm just going to start right here. It doesn't matter where you start. So I'm basically using my blade as a tool to place it, and then I've got my. Now I'm doing this differently. I'm going to do a bunch of little pieces. I'm not like putting a piece of tape down and cutting it, simply because I have a lot of shapes to go around, and that would, quite frankly, be very frustrating and almost impossible to do. So I'm doing it this way. This is another way to mask. It's just a bunch of little pieces. They conform to shapes easier. I'm going to have to get down into all these grooves. And like there's a space between the pouch and the back right here. You can't see it, but it's there. I want to get tape underneath there. So again, I'm just going to go in here and put a piece of tape under there right up to the belt. Like that. And I'm just using my toothpick to kind of push it in place. And sometimes I'll use my blade to push it in place, but you have to be real careful, especially with a new blade, because I'll go right through the tape and you have a good chance of nicking your paint, which is never fun. I do have touch-ups on this piece. I always have touch-ups as I go. As you handle it, you're gonna maybe get a scratch here, or like the tips of the ears. They're very pointy, and the paint likes to rub off. So at the very end, I'm gonna have to touch up the tips of the ears and seal them one more time. But for the most part, the head's done. I'm gonna have to. What I'll probably end up doing is sealing everything one more time at the very end. For whatever reason, whenever you spray like Tester's dull coat or really any top coat, I find that you have to make sure that you kind of spray, if you want consistency between the finishes, you kind of have to do them all at the same time from the same can. And not that the product is inconsistent between cans, but what's inconsistent is the air temperature, the temperature of your piece, how much do you shake it. All those factors go into the final finish of the top coat. Even though Tester's dull coat says dull coat on it, if you put it on too wet, which I've been doing lately because I like the finish, it's more of a satin finish. It's not dull. I have found that the Krylon matte finish is extremely dull, which I like. I've been using that actually on the Spider-Man. I've been working on the Sosa Spider-Man, and I do like that. So I've been using that quite a bit. But on this kit, with the fabrics and everything, like the boots, the pants, the cape, we kind of want a leather look. So a slightly kind of satin finish, a little bit of a sheen, like right here, really gives it that sense that it's a leather outfit. So like here's a good example. I've had to get tape somewhere where it'd be really hard to get putty into, or silly putty. It's really between these two pouches. There's a very thin area right there. Actually, I need to kind of turn it this way a little bit so I can see where the belt portion ends. Actually, it's not too bad. Right about there. So I took a very small piece of tape and I slid it between these two pouches right there. So, yeah, I don't mind masking. It's kind of relaxing. It's, you know, when you can spend hours masking something like I will here and spend 5 minutes painting it, or like not even 5 minutes. You can spend 10 seconds painting something that you spent hours to mask. Like, man, that took forever, but the end results speak for themselves. So again, if you're willing to take the time. I had contemplated hand painting these, but the more I thought about it, the more I dreaded having to try to avoid getting yellow paint all over everything. So in the end, I decided masking is the smart thing to do, and probably in the long run faster, because it would take several coats of yellow paint to cover this, because more than likely I will prime it first in yellow and then start with the, or not prime in yellow, prime in white, sorry. Prime in white first and then proceed with the yellows. And we're going with the dark yellow, and they'll get weathered and stuff. So I'm not going to videotape this. It's already been 10 minutes. I've already only got my 2 inches around. I got to do both sides. So next time you see me, I'll have this masked off, and I'll show you doing like the saran wrap. All right, back in the spray room. As you can see, I've got Batman all masked up, except for the belt. It actually didn't take me 2 hours. It only took me about an hour, so not too bad. But you can see how I use all these little teeny tiny pieces of tape to go in between all the pouches. Got everything else for saran wrap. So this should be good to go to paint. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot this with gray Stynylrez Res. Get all the same color because I got some blue on there and stuff. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Do that real quick. And I have to look at my yellows I have because we want kind of a darker yellow. So what I may do is prime this, then base coat it like in an orange and go from there. So first thing is to get an even color. Because yellow does not like to cover very well. I'm going to get rid of that blue that I had from spraying the pants the other day. And I got some of that wash on there and stuff from all the other previous steps. I'm just going to kill all that. Again, this is just the Badger Stynylrez Res. Spraying at 20 psi. Not sure if you guys can see me or not. And that's about it for now. And you let this dry for 10 minutes or so. And then we can come back and, I think what I'll do is I'll do what I do with Gundams. I'll put a base coat of orange down, and then I'll highlight with the yellow. So I'll be back once this dries after a while. Alright, so my primer's dried for a little bit. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down a base coat of Fiery Orange by Plamo Color. Put my gloves on here so I don't get too messy. Again, this is Plamo Color paint. I'm going to mix this up 1:1. They don't need a whole lot. Actually, it's pretty thin. It's too thin, I can tell. A little more paint. That's about right. Alright. This is my airbrush. Turn on my spray booth. And the Plamo you want to put on pretty light because it's very thin. It's kind of an interesting paint because it goes on super, super light. Like you put the first 2 coats on, just let it dry for 15-20 seconds. And I see one little area with my teeth. So it goes on pretty light, it doesn't look like it's covering, and then kind of all of a sudden it starts to cover. So right now I'm just kind of putting on a light coat. Make sure I'm getting all the nooks and crannies. As you can see, it's not really showing up right now. So I'm just going to keep missing it on. I'm actually going to try something new. I'm going to try something different here. I'll try it on camera. I'm going to mist this on. Because the yellow I have isn't very, it's not the right tone. It's too bright. So I want this to kind of tone it down a little bit. So I'm not going to put this on all the way. I'm just going to mist it on, and then I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do some pre-shading for shadows. It'll be hard down in here where the lake comes up. I can't get an airbrush in there. Again, I'm not going to try to cover this all, and I'm just putting something very light, just building it up real slow. Belt buckle, I'm going to do some sort of metallic. I'll hand brush that. Give it kind of a brush metal look. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to stay with the same color, but I'm going to go in and kind of hit like the shadow areas. So this is where I'll kind of build it up a little bit more. Like between the pouches. Kind of wherever there's any little, recessed area. And this will also go through the yellow. There's still very little paint coming out. I'm just building it up again. Just hitting the shadow areas now. Once I do this stuff, I'm going to let it dry a little bit. And then we'll come back and spray some yellow on top. See what it looks like. My hand gets cramped up when I'm doing this. And then here where I already the airbrush, a little darker, it's okay. In all the little crevices, create some shadows. Probably turn it upside down, make sure you get the bottom of these pouches really good. Especially those. I'll show you what this looks like when I'm done. Not taking that long to do this step. Okay, so basically I just went in there and kind of did some shading. Hopefully you can see it. Kind of hit all the little crevices underneath the pockets, underneath the pouches, in between the pouches. Some of this dry for, I don't know, 10 minutes or so, and then I'll come back and I'll start putting yellow on. Actually, I'm going to go back and do a little more shading, and then where that could add a little more dimension. Run little like buckles on the pouch. I'm adding some orange. Give them some shape. So I'm in real tight. I'm at 20 psi. I'm just barely pulling the trigger back. Okay. I think it's pretty good. So it's dry and I'll come back and do yellow. Okay, so it's dry for about 10 minutes. The only color I have right now is Mr. Color GX yellow, and it's pretty bright, and it's brighter than we wanted. So I'm going to spray this over what I just did and see what that looks like. And I may have to tone it down after I get this down, but I want to get that orange down first to add a little warmth to the yellow and hopefully get it darkened down a little bit. We'll see what this looks like. It won't look orange when I'm done. The orange will just be like will be the shadows. I don't need a whole lot. Again, I'm going to mix this like 2 to 1. We're going to mix this on real light, building it up slowly. See what it does. I got 2 parts thinner, 1 part paint. Everyone uses the analogy of skim milk, and that's actually pretty accurate. That's why there's a lot of times people ask, well, "What's your thinning ratio?" You know, depends on the color, depends on the brand. A good starting point for Mr. Color is 2 part paints to 1 part thinner. Some paints I'll thin a little more, some I'll thin a little less. But in general, that's a good starting point. A lot of times I don't even measure. The GX paints are pretty much always 2 to 1. Seem to work for me. So we'll put that in, and we're just going to start misting this on and see what it does. hard to get down in here where this light comes up. Actually looking pretty good so far. I may go back after this and hit the shadows again with the orange, and then do this step again. It's looking pretty good. It's a kind of a muted dark orange, dark yellow. I don't want the orange coming through 100%. It's looking pretty good. The yellow's drying down actually pretty nice as we go here. So I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to switch back to that orange for a little while. I'm actually going to leave that little bit of yellow in my airbrush. Add some of this orange. Mix it up a little bit. I'll go back and hit some of these shadows again. Real light. going back and doing that first step again. And we'll go back and do the yellow again. I'm not talking, I'm just spraying, doing the same thing. You know, you can kind of see the highlight, the shadowing a little more effective on top of this yellow. I'm going to go back to the yellow and do this again. See what we look like. And I'm just going to leave whatever orange I have in here, and I'll spray it out. Yellow. Same thing, just kind of mist it on. Basically, I'm going to blend this in so it almost looks like the shading's gone. And then once it dries down, it should be right where I want it. Hopefully Mark's around tonight. He's on the other side of the world, so we usually chat when I'm going to bed or when I'm waking up in the morning. If he approves this, then I'll seal it, because I'll probably do a wash on it too. A light brown wash to bring out the wrinkles and stuff will help a lot. It's got a lot. These covers have a lot of nice detail on them. But that's pretty good right there, I think. Pretty happy with that. The sad part is all the pouches on the back. You don't see them because of the cape. Alright, so going back to the orange was the trick. On top of the yellow and then doing this again. This is getting where I wanted it. This is looking how I wanted it to look. So I think that's all the blending we're going to do. This will dry down a little bit darker. Perfect. And that's pretty much the yellow for the belt. So, yeah, until Mark approves this, I can't do anything else. I don't want to unmask this until he approves it. So, I think I'm going to call this work in progress done. Because once this belt is signed off and I seal it, I'll hand paint this, and then other than doing like some dry brushing, some slight weathering, and some highlights on the Batman's pretty much done. He's in the home stretch right now, and then I'll concentrate on the base this weekend, time allotted. So, and that's I'm not gonna jinx myself, but I think the base should go fairly quick. There's no masking or anything. But this looks pretty good. I think this is where we want to be on the yellow, and then as this dries down, it'll get a little bit darker. So we didn't want a bright yellow. That's for sure. We wanted something a little muted, toned down. So I think this will do the trick. Alright, so that's it for this work in progress. Again, another long work in progress video, but hopefully you guys are learning something as you watch along, and when these are all out, I hope you guys take the time to look at them, and hope you enjoy them. Catch you guys next time. Bye.